Daily Fantasy Edge. I'm your host, Peter Jennings. Go by CSURAM88 across the daily fantasy industry. And even with Dusty Danny Amendola in my leagues lineup, I was able to win the 4-man. So, guys, I'm on cloud 9. We have legal sports betting here in Colorado. Things are trending. Adam, what are the news and notes on the pod?
Well, what a week for you. First the 4-man, and then you're on the local news. I mean, geez, the mayor moniker needs to stick. I mean, I know that some people have taken to calling you the mayor. It's really true. You're everywhere. I mean, how do you end up in the local news? I assume Alec set it up because, by the way, guys, Alec is the real hero here, and Alec was also a guest on this podcast. We had a great time with him. You can scroll back. I don't have the episode number in front of me, but Alec was a great guest on the podcast as well, made people rethink kind of what their priors were on politicians. But anyways, if you haven't seen Peter on the local news, you got to check it out. It's all time.
Smiz.
No response.
Pete, I can't see your video. Are you wearing a backwards hat for this show?
I'm wearing a hoodie.
You're wearing a hoodie. Okay. Okay, so a hoodie, backwards hat. Yeah, that's solid. Yeah, that's right on brand. Good. You have like a pencil sitting on your ear too? Like something along those lines, just to denote that you're a gambler?
No pencil.
Like the green, like the visor with the green, like see-through thing. Do you have one of those? It says Vegas on it.
Yeah, I really needed to wear a math hat for Yang Gang. That's what I needed to wear. But yeah, getting some Yang Gang. And yes, real quick, shout out to Alec. He really did set up a great bill and did a great job with this. And I know I'm getting mocked on Twitter, but I genuinely am passionate about water. And Colorado, Al, we're actually funding, or a lot of the water in California comes from us. And
thank you for that, by the way.
Yeah.
Love that water. Big fan of water.
I'm a huge fan of water, huge passion for water. And on a serious note, our population is expected to double here in Colorado by 2050. And just the West Coast and the Front Range needing water, it'll be good to see the revenue from gambling go to that. But Al, get us back on track here. What's going on in your world? You've been opening Sugarfish boxes. You've been enjoying the Smiz life. I mean, sounds like the dream.
I mean, look, man, we're into double digits. It's week 10. We're halfway through the content season. For everybody who says, well, Al, we got there before because the content season, it's only 17-week football season. No, we do 20 weeks here. You know, we go that extra mile for you guys and go through the playoffs. So we're at the halfway mark for us in terms of content. Got my second win. I'm feeling good about it. This is a different week. I like what DraftKings has done with the salaries this week. They haven't made it just so clear cut. You actually have some decisions to make. There's some good values. We're probably going to get to at least some of them, at least a couple of them, probably most of them. And there's some injury stuff that leaves things up in the air. So it's a very interesting week, at least from where I sit. And I can't wait to hear your guys' thoughts on it.
All right. Well, let's dive into the games unless you have any additional news and notes, Adam.
No, go ahead and get in the Listener League. I know it wasn't up when the solo pod was released, but the Listener League is up now. If you're a listener, you should know where to find the DK playbook, find the logo, find the link.
All right. First game on the docket is the Ravens at the Bengals. Ravens are a 10-point favorite in a total of 44. Big news is it looks like AJ Green might come back. Adam, what are the additional news and notes on this game?
Yeah, we'll see on AJ Green. They said he's going to play, and then he didn't practice on Wednesday, so we'll see. But yeah, obviously getting AJ Green back would be a good thing for this offense, would kind of slot guys into their normal roles. That said, even if AJ Green does play, I'd be surprised if he wasn't limited in some sense. And yeah, they're going to go with Ryan Finley. I mean, the Andy Dalton era is over. The Red Rocket era has come to its merciful end. Ryan Finley was extremely productive in the preseason, man. I played him a couple times, and he was just completing passes at a really high rate, like 73%. Now, a lot of those passes were extremely short. I mean, he had a pathetically low ADOT, especially for the preseason. In the regular season against the Ravens with one of the most talented secondaries in the league, I don't know if that's going to fly. So certainly a tough first spot for Ryan Finley. I guess you could make an argument that, hey, it's a letdown spot for Baltimore. I mean, they had an amazing win. I think somewhat predictable, but a really good win at home against the Patriots on Sunday night, and now they go on the road to face a Cincy team, which everybody just expects them to roll. And so, yeah, you know, that's the best argument you can make for Cincy playing well here, I think. But I'm somewhat excited to see Ryan Finley. I just think that he'll find better matchups along the way here.
Yeah, I don't disagree that he's going to find better matchups along the way, but is Lamar Jackson going to find better matchups along the way? We know what he did already against this squad a couple of weeks ago. How do you not play him in tournaments? Like, I know that people are going to say, well, you can't, or it's 7,300, or there's other position players that I want to go get. This is a spot where we saw him post 33 fantasy points with 0 touchdown passes. I think that the interesting leverage play is to go with Mark Ingram because of how bad Cincinnati's been, and everybody piling on Lamar Jackson at the same price. And I think that one is going to be 15 to 20% owned at least, and the other one is probably going to be less than 5 or less than 3% owned. I think that they definitely are two guys that leverage one another. They're diametrically opposed in terms of fantasy scoring. It's going to be very difficult for Lamar Jackson to have a 30-point day and for Mark Ingram to have a 25-plus point day. And the difference in prospective ownership makes me kind of want to take a shot at overweighting the field at maybe 10% or 15% on somebody like Ingram.
Yeah, I love that call. I was actually going to bring that up as well, Al. I think this is the perfect leverage spot because it's really rare that we'll see Lamar Jackson, throw a touchdown to Ingram. So like you said, they're going to have, they're going to be really negatively correlated and you're going to get a lot of leverage. I think Ingram with the Ravens defense makes quite a bit of sense as well. This Ravens secondary with Jimmy Smith back is looking really, really good. And I think their defense can trend in a big way in the second half or the latter part of the second half of this year. So I like the Ravens a lot. Lamar Jackson's obviously a great play. I think around the industry, he has a little more upside just because DraftKings with the 300-yard passing bonus, his rushing and his rushing touchdown equity is better, outside of DraftKings. But he's still a really great play. If I'm stacking him, what do you guys think about Hollywood Brown, who's 5,100, which I think is a reasonable price tag, really huge ceiling, but also a low floor. Adam, where do you stand on Hollywood Brown or another pass catcher like Mark Andrews?
Yeah, I was a little bit concerned by Mark Andrews' usage last week. I mean, set a season low in routes run against the Patriots. Maybe that was game plan specific. Maybe that was because they got a lead, et cetera, et cetera. So, yeah, I'm okay with Mark Andrews. And, yeah, Hollywood Brown, we know what's going to happen. He's going to play roughly half the snaps, but Lamar only throws really to Mark Andrews and Hollywood Brown. So I like playing with them. Certainly a good matchup for Hollywood Brown. And the only other thing that I note is on the Mark Ingram ownership. I mean, I've been so wrong twice on Mark Ingram ownership this year. I would not underestimate like people's willingness to click Mark Ingram. Like he's been owned like 20, 30% in spots where I thought he'd be like, 5. And one of them might have been this game against Cincy before. I don't remember exactly, but it's been weird. Like there's somebody out there with way more influence than us who's been talking up Mark Ingram and like sending his ownership to the moon at least twice this year.
That's true. That was that 1 week he was like, 20, 30% owned. And I thought he was going to be really contrarian. And if I'm going to play a Bengal, I think the passing options are interesting. But Joe Mixon, 4,700 coming off a bye, really talented player just playing behind an awful offensive line. But you're going to get a lot of touches at 4,700. So he's not the worst play. And if you're going to stack up, like Hollywood Brown and Lamar Jackson and expect them to have, ceiling games, Cincinnati has to do something. So I don't hate the idea of Mixon. Would that be where you'd go, Al, or are you looking somewhere else, or just fading the Bengals entirely?
I don't play very many Bengals. If I'm going to play a Bengal, it's probably just going to be Boyd, to be honest with you. And like AJ Green coming back, I don't think is a bad thing for Tyler Boyd, where most people say, well, AJ Green's there, it's going to kill him. Well, okay, in the 9 games that they've played together, Tyler Boyd has averaged 4 more fantasy points per game with more catches per game, similar amount of targets per game, more yards per game. I don't think AJ Green is a detriment. He attracts another player off of Tyler Boyd, allows him to work in space. Tyler Boyd is a guy who works against zone out of the slot, runs and looks for space, much like Edelman. He's not really a primary receiver who's going to draw the number 1 and still be able to get open and get catches like a Julio Jones, like an AJ Green of old, like Michael Thomas. He's not that type of guy, but you let him run around in space while somebody else is drawing that sort of coverage and he gets more opportunity and more availability over the middle. I think it makes sense, obviously from an anecdotal point of view, but it just makes sense to me that it was the first place that I went when I said AJ Green was coming back or possibly coming back. If he's there in full, I don't think it detracts me from wanting to play Tyler Boyd. His price has just come down from 6,500 to 4,700, which is just too cheap for the amount of volume that he gets.
Yeah, I think it's thin to play Bengals. I agree on the Boyd call. I just think AJ Green really helps this offense if he does get out there on the field, and you're getting a lot of touches for 4,700. I also like taking offensive players when their team is coming off the bye. Team has a chance to get healthier. So we will see. Enough time on the Bengals. Let's move to the Bills at Browns. This line kind of stands out to me as a funky one, Adam. Browns are 3-point favorites with a total of 40. The Browns have been playing awful all year, and really a kind of a stinker game versus the Broncos. Now they're a favorite versus this Bills team, which I think is pretty good. What are your thoughts on this line and the news and notes?
Yeah, it feels like the markets have been overrating Cleveland going back to the offseason, going back to their win total and their odds to win the AFC and all that. I mean, it's surprising that people still want to have money on Cleveland, but I don't know. I don't know. It's definitely weird. It stood out to me as well. From a news and notes perspective, Kareem Hunt is going to be back from this game. I think people are going to overreact. They're going to overproject Kareem Hunt's role. I think he'll just slide in maybe to like the Dontrell Hilliard role, which is, playing 30% of the snaps or so, 35% of snaps, but not touching the ball too much. So I wouldn't downgrade Nick Chubb too much if you liked Nick Chubb before. I'm fine with that. Obviously, the big usage news of the week is, Devin Singletary playing well ahead of Frank Gore in Week 8, Devin Singletary playing well ahead of Frank Gore in Week 9, and now Devin Singletary getting to face the Browns in Week 10, and I believe he's like 5K or something like that. So I'm sure that Devin Singletary is going to be popular, and he's certainly been very effective. And then the other thing that I have for a note is Baker is out in the media saying we've got to force feed Odell. We got to force feed Odell. Odell will be shadowed almost certainly by Tre'Davious White. Odell's also down to 6,100, which I didn't check, but that has to be one of the cheapest prices that Odell has seen since his rookie year. So yeah, it's definitely an interesting game and one that I think people are going to be on. Jarvis Landry is obviously in play too, and yeah, I think people are going to be more into this game than maybe the total would suggest.
Just because of volume, right? I mean, Singletary with 20 carries last week and outsnapping Gore 79-38 the past 2 weeks. Cleveland's allowing 2.5 runs of 15 yards per game. It's the second most in the league. So there's big playability here as well. And Singletary is somebody who has involvement in the passing game as well with multiple catches in the last 2 games. And we see this every single year, right? Where rookies start to come into their own in the second half of the season, right? They know the playbook. They're a little bit better in pass protection when they're running backs. We've seen some wide receivers take a step forward this year and in previous years in the second half of the season. I think that a lot of people are going to flock towards Singletary because there's easy value at running back this week. There's at least 3, 4 if you include Mixon, like Pete did. There's a lot of value from the, let's say, 4,300 range to the 5,300 range that allows you to play one, if not. You all right there, Adam?
Oh, I just spilled water all over myself because I know I didn't want to have the cap on because then every time I take the cap off, the mic picks it up. So I have it with the cap offs, and then I just knocked it over like a donkey.
That's a Jennings move. I'm rubbing off on you across the country, bud. Sorry.
Yeah, no, we're good. It's only on my dick. It's not on the computer.
Are you teasing the ad read? Is that what we're doing here?
God damn it. I'm soaked.
Oh, what a donkey. All right, getting back to the game. I rolled my eyes so hard that I almost broke my orbital sockets when I heard I read that tweet this morning. The Browns say that they need to get the ball more to Odell Beckham early in games. You think, you idiots? Maybe that should have been the plan from week 1. What do you... the play calling's been so ridiculous, and the focus has been on everything but, right? Like, instead of giving the play sheet to Monken, their Kitchens just won't let it go. Instead of worrying about the opponent, they're more worried about what fuzzy shoes they're going to wear and are they going to run afoul of the league's uniform rules. You got a quarterback shaving 3 times a day because he doesn't deserve to wear a handlebar mustache because he didn't play up to the expectation of having a handlebar mustache. And then he looks like Columbo in the post-game presser with a ridiculous non-strap rain jacket that looks like it was sold by Morty Seinfeld. Can you just get it together, Cleveland Browns?
Doubtful.
Pete?
Doubtful. Kitchens is up there. I mean, not quite as much of a donkey as Adam or I, but man.
least he hasn't spilled any water on himself on the sideline.
We could have him on. We could bring back the Three Donkeys podcast and have it be the Four Donkeys with Kitchens. He's been just egregiously bad this year. I don't get it. This line really is confusing to me, so I'm trying to dive into it deeper. The nice thing from a fantasy perspective is it is a really low total. My favorite play by a mile in this game, though, is Devin Singletary.
Mm-hmm.
I think he's an elusive player. I know he didn't test well in terms of measurables, but just watching him play, he makes a lot of guys miss. And with a great defense and having Josh Allen, who's also a mobile quarterback, helps him. So he's my favorite play. I think you can go to Josh Allen and John Brown if you're trying to get a contrarian stack. And I mean, Odell Beckham, this is a really tough matchup. I think they should be trying to get him the ball more, but I'm gonna have a lot of trouble rostering any Browns in this spot. So to me, it's Singletary, maybe the Bills D, and Josh Allen and John Brown as a contrarian stack, but feels bad given that the Browns are favorites and this is a 40 total game. So Adam, any thoughts on Josh Allen, John Brown?
Oh, I mean, God, I played Josh Allen, John Brown every week, and they just haven't found their ceiling yet. And we're getting late in the year where it's like, well, maybe they will never find their ceiling. So, I always think it's really high upside because mobile quarterbacks are always going to find the higher upside, and John Brown is the kind of player that finds a high upside. It's just they don't like lower his price ever. He's like still $6K, right? I mean, it's crazy. I feel like he should be more in the $5K range.
Josh Allen is the nuts in first half only leagues, though. He has like 19 points at halftime every week, and he ends with like 19.7.
Yeah.
Sounds like Karl Anthony Towns last night. All right, moving on. We got the Lions at the Bears, 42.5 total in this game. Bears are favored by 2.5 points. Adam, what are the news and notes?
Yeah, I thought there was a chance that the Bears would go to God, now I'm blanking on his name, Chase Daniel over Mitch Trubisky. But they're going to stick with Mitch Trubisky. And, it's hard to find confidence in anybody in the Chicago pass game, Allen Robinson included, with Trubisky playing at this level. Certainly a good matchup. I think there's going to be a lot of people on David Montgomery in this game, and you could say it's with pretty good reason. Although the Bears offensive line has struggled, the Detroit has been so bad against the run.
And ownership through the roof. David Montgomery has been really good the last couple of weeks. It's the first Jerry Bark of the year, Pete.
The Jerry Bark, and now Adam has to go to the door with his pants drenched. I really hope someone sees
I didn't even think about that.
Hey, Levitan, did you piss yourself there, bud?
Awesome. This is amazing. Wait, we got to watch him walk back. Come on, chair, work with us. Don't rotate in front of him walking back. We got to see how soaked his pants got. I'm going to try and stay on target until he comes back, but obviously David Montgomery is now going to be like 80% owned because of the Jerry Bark. Let's see the pants.
Luckily he's wearing blue pants. He's fine.
I mean, look, David Montgomery is facing off against the Detroit Lions, who, if I told you in week 10 that the Detroit Lions were going to be the single worst team in terms of points allowed against opposing running backs on DraftKings, you would have laughed at me in the preseason because of how well they played against the run and running backs last year. But they're allowing the most points. They're allowing 112 yards per game on the ground, 5.5 catches per game, allowing touchdowns in bunches, over a touchdown allowed on the ground this year, as well as the ones through the air. This is a really high floor spot, seemingly, for David Montgomery, considering how bad this matchup is. The question is, what type of volume are they going to give him? Because against Philly, obviously they were playing from behind, and he scores those 2 touchdowns, and it makes the box score look really good as they made that game close, but they were getting really stifled early in that game. Now, if he gets 20-plus touches, it's an absolute smash. I'm not saying he shouldn't be the highest-owned player, even before the Jerry Bark, but now Jerry's barked, and he's going to be 75% owned in the Millie Maker because everybody who listens to this podcast is just going to jam him in. So Adam, do you want to continue? How did the delivery guy react to you having soaked pants when you came to the door?
By the way, that's the third package from freaking Amazon that my wife has had delivered today. I mean, she's not only going to give Jerry a heart attack, she's going to give me a heart attack, and break me as well. But anyways, delivery guy was fine. David Montgomery has clearly separated, I'm sure, as you mentioned, from Mike Davis and Tariq Cohen. So they like him a lot. I think, there's just a low floor on this entire offense. Like, Trubisky just like totally messing everything up and them running 45 plays is in the range of outcomes. So that I think that would be the best argument against Montgomery.
Did the package guy see you, Levitan?
Yeah.
Did he look down at your pants, wondering what happened?
No, I don't think he was looking at my pants.
What are you looking at, bro? Oh, your pants are drenched. What's going on? All right. This game, Montgomery obviously stands out. You guys hit on that. If we're going to the Lions side, we've had Kenny Golladay and Marvin Jones just keep going back and forth. It's been flop lag, as you like to say, Al. Where are we going on the Lions side? Because this Bears defense, I think, still in people's mind is a little overrated. I know this game is in Chicago, and it's a divisional game. But, man, I want to play Golladay and Marvin Jones, or at least have exposure to one of them every week. Do we have a preference between the two?
Go ahead, Al.
I don't really have I cycle them through. I don't really have a preference to either one or the other because it's such a toss-up. They both have really, really high usage rates in terms of target percentage and red zone usage. And it just comes down to which one is open that day. I don't think that there's any way for me to reasonably project and say one versus the other. Usually we say, okay, well, this one went off last week and this one's cheaper in salary this week, so let's go that route. I think for tournaments, both are fine, and I'm fine pulling both in the same lineup in a double stack with Stafford.
Yeah, I think I'm just going to be out on the Lions receivers this week. I think, they've been playing so well. I think people are going to be on them, and this is going to, there's like chances both teams could run so few plays in this game. So, and there's a lot of other higher priced wide receivers that I like. So I probably would just be out on Lions receivers this week for me.
Flop lag plays Danny Amendola.
Oh,
play. My favorite play though in this game that we haven't talked about, Allen Robinson, 6,300. Guy is a straight baller, and he's going to be a lot of leverage off Montgomery. So my favorite play by a mile is Allen Robinson in this game at 6,300. And I think we can safely move on to the Giants at the Jets. Sneaky game here. This game should play up in pace. We have a 44 total. Giants are favored by 2.5. To me, this kind of looks like the Dolphins-Jets game last week that I want a lot of pieces here, actually, Adam.
Yeah, and I was excited to play Daniel Jones, Danny Dimes, and then, he loses Evan Ingram to an injury, and then he loses Sterling Shepard is still not ready to play. So you start taking away these weapons from Daniel Jones, and I still think he's a pretty good play due to rushing equity. Still has Saquon, obviously, still has Golden Tate. But, it's not the same when you have Rhett freaking Ellison playing every snap. And Darius Slayton, who I think Darius Slayton can play a little bit, but I don't think he's nearly as good as Sterling Shepard. So, it's just stuff to think about. Rhett Ellison, I know people, given that Christian McCaffrey is 10,500, people are going to be looking to save money, and they're going to say Rhett Ellison is Stone Min at 2,500. He played 100% of the snaps last time Ingram was out. You can say Rhett Ellison
had 7 targets too.
Yeah, I mean, he is 2,500, but there's, at tight end, there's other in-play tight ends who are like 3K and 3,500. So, you're saving a decent amount. I'd say Rhett Ellison went at his combine, which was like a decade ago.
I knew we were going to go to this.
He ran a 4.88.
Here we go. So the Disley take returns.
He ran a 4.88 at his combine in 2012. What do you think he runs now? Like 5.88 or something like that? And that doesn't mean he can't have a good game. But it's like Jason Witten caught 8 balls on what was that, Monday night or something? Like it's certainly possible.
5.8 is like my range. Like I run like a 5.8. He's faster than me.
I would bet the over 5.8 on you.
All right.
And I will take the under on Rhett Ellison 5.8.
Yeah, definitely under. We did a combine a couple years ago. I ran a 5.8 at him.
Really?
Yeah.
That was more than a couple years ago there, bud.
Okay, see, here we now had him rethinking his day.
He ran a 5.8 carrying coconuts. I mean, come on.
Yeah, got like 3 days off of a back spasm. I was not feeling good.
Oh, those.
I'm not saying I'm running like a 5.1 or anything, but 5.8's well within reach.
Yeah,
I think Ravel ran like a 5.8 or something. So
no, he ran like a 6.3 or 6.5 or something.
Oh gosh! And speaking, not to do too much of a shout out, but you can get a good line against. Whatever.
I'll go heads up against Ravel in a 40.
Okay. Wait, what did
Ravel ran
Never mind.
6.8. Is that what you said?
Never mind. Pete can already see himself getting a message from HR.
I'm just being an absolute donkey right now. just save me for myself here.
All right. The only other injury note that I had was this Le'Veon Bell situation is a bit odd. They claim that they called up Jamal Adams from the practice squad, not because Le'Veon Bell is actually hurt, but because they wanted to protect him from being poached by another team. I don't know. We'll see. Ty Montgomery and Bilal Powell are, God, I if this was like 2 months ago, I would have said that Ty Montgomery would get every snap. But lately, it seems like Bilal Powell's been mixing in a reasonable amount as well when Le'Veon Bell's not out there. So I'm not sure exactly. I think Ty Montgomery would be the preferred play, but I don't want to swear to that. But Ty Montgomery is only 4,100, and we know about his pass catching ability if Le'Veon Bell should miss.
Okay, can we just talk about this as though Le'Veon Bell is active, though?
Sure.
And we'll pivot to that if that becomes an X factor on Sunday morning or whatever. But I think Le'Veon Bell is most certainly in play here with as many 20-plus touch games as he has. He is second in the league in terms of the percentage of scrimmage yards on his team, with 36.7% of the Jets' scrimmage yards this year, second only to Christian McCaffrey. Now, granted, the Jets aren't getting as many yards as a lot of other teams, but this is a great matchup against the Giants. Both teams are at home here. I don't care who's slated as the home team. They're both the home team this weekend. I think that he's in play. I think that Crowder's in play. I think Red Ellison is fine if you're not playing Red Ellison to get Red Ellison things. If Red Ellison is the thing that opens up other players for you, that gives you all the guys that you want that are superstars and studs throughout this lineup, in your 9-man lineup on DraftKings, then I'm fine with Red Ellison for being the guy to unlock that, much like Adam when you played Cameron Brate, who I think is similar, if not worse, than Red Ellison as a play that week versus this week. He was fine, but I think Red Ellison is slightly better based on just volume alone. There was no path to 7 targets with Cam Brate that week. There is a path to 7 targets with Red Ellison, as much as this offense relies on the tight end. And if he happens to fall his 4-9-40 time into the end zone, it's pure profit. If he gets you 7 to 10 points and unlocks guys like Michael Thomas or Christian McCaffrey or Lamar Jackson, those guys that do have 30 to 45 point ceilings, I think he's well worth it.
Yeah. No, and to be clear, I didn't want to be too harsh on Red. I just like making I like I like making fun of him. But yeah, it is what it is.
I would take Red Ellison in a 40 over you.
Can you set that up?
I mean, well, we got a common friend that might be able to set that up in the postseason. I'm gonna DM Jordan right now.
I would definitely.
Oh, look at you back down. Now you're like, oh God, there might be a path to me having to race against an NFL guy I called slow.
I would. I'd race him.
You'd get dusted, Levitan.
Yeah, you would. Yeah. Yes.
What do you think he runs now? 10 years ago, 4.88. What do you think he runs today?
4.9.
No, come on. There's no aging curve there.
There's
of course
no
he runs
chance you're beating him in a 40.
Well, I know I can't break 5 seconds. That's for sure. So if he can,
so he has, and he weighs 150 pounds more than you.
Right.
You realize how good an athlete this bad athlete is?
Of course, he's in the NFL. Of course.
Levitan, you're dusted. Just absolutely dusted.
He will turn around and run backward at the end of the 40. He's beating you that badly.
Yeah, I mean, you might be right, but it'd still be fun.
It would be fun. I need a 10-yard head start to even have a shot.
Can we talk about Robbie Anderson and how he's a good tournament play? Guy's kind of fast. This Giants team, pretty bad. What do you guys think?
Yeah, I wish they'd throw the ball deep, the Jets, like ever. What is, I don't know. I think, I want to think that Robbie Anderson is going to be a very good tournament play. I just don't like how infrequently Sam Darnold is taking shots downfield. I don't know if that's Gase. I don't know if that's the offense. I don't know if Darnold is, having too many issues right now. But everything is short. Everything is to Crowder and everything is to Bell. And you would think that would anecdotally set up Anderson after you dink and dunk to take a shot downfield. But it just hasn't materialized.
Yeah. I think he's a good tournament play still. I want it to
be there. I agree with you. I think that based on the matchup and everything else, he is, and based on his skill set, he is a good tournament play. But he just hasn't, other than that 192-yard catch back in week 6, he only has one other catch over 30 yards on the season.
Yeah, that's the downside is that he hasn't gotten the volume, but I still think he's a really, really strong play. Just in tournaments only. And then Saquon,
Yes.
where are we putting Saquon? I mean, you're getting a pretty steep discount now versus McCaffrey. Obviously, he's been more volatile and hasn't been like Chris McCaffrey, who's just breaking slates every single week that he's not playing the Buccaneers. But at 8,800, I mean, that's a pretty nice tag in a game that should have a lot of pace. How are you guys prioritizing getting Saquon in your lineups?
Yeah. I mean, I haven't made any teams yet, but from what I can see, it's probably going to be hard to play them both, right? Like last week, it was pretty easy to play Dalvin and McCaffrey together. Like I had my one cash lineup was Dalvin, McCaffrey, and Russ Wilson. So we could definitely do it last week. I'm not sure you can do it this week, or maybe with your boy, Al Rhett Ellison. Maybe you can.
I mean, I'm prioritizing something a little bit differently this week, and I think it's going to make it tough to get two high dollar running backs into a lineup.
Okay. Well, let's move to the Chiefs at Titans here, and obviously the big news is going to be Patrick Mahomes. I've seen a total around 48. Chiefs as 6-point favorites. All signs pointing Mahomes playing. Adam, what are the news and notes here?
Yeah, I mean, he practiced full. I think at this point it would be a bit of a surprise if Mahomes doesn't play, but we'll see. Also, Delaney Walker, I believe, still not practicing, so we'll have to see on him. And then from a usage perspective, Damian Williams, I don't know if they punished LaShawn McCoy, but for whatever it was, LaShawn McCoy only got 6 snaps last week. Damian Williams set season highs in snap rate. But yeah, I mean, if Mahomes is back, this is obviously a really good matchup. The outside receiver has just been absolutely flaming the Titans. So Tyreek Hill to me would be really interesting. And yeah, I mean, Travis Kelce's price has come down, not really to the point where it reflects his production this season, but Travis Kelce's price has come down a decent amount. But yeah, I mean, I think if Mahomes plays, Tyreek is going to stand out as access to a big ceiling in this spot.
You mentioned Travis Kelce. Based on the prices and people wanting to pay up for a running back, and I think that there's one wide receiver that stands head and shoulders above everybody else this week that is going to be extremely heavily owned. Do you think that this, Adam, is a low percentage owned week for Travis Kelce? For him, not like for everybody, right? Like
no.
10, 12%.
I mean, Travis Kelce hasn't been that owned this year. He just hasn't been producing, I mean, there's no way he's lived up to his price or like his first round fantasy status in season long, like at all. People have had enough, I think.
Okay. Do you realize that there are 39 touchdowns to tight ends that have been caught by tight ends in the red zone this year? Did you also know that Travis Kelce leads the tight end position with 13 red zone targets? Pete, do you know how many red zone touchdowns Travis Kelce has scored in 2019?
My guess is 0 or 1.
Big fat
Definitely
0.
0, yeah.
Big fat 0. So if that supply continues, if that volume in the red zone continues, we would expect those touchdowns to regress towards the mean, which is a good thing in terms of Travis Kelce here. I think that there's some value on the other side with A.J. Brown, who ran a season high and also a career high, 32 routes last week against Carolina. We know that they're playing up in pace. I think that Tannehill, who has averaged over 20 points per game, and the Chiefs allowing over 20 points per game to opposing quarterbacks. What is the number here that they have? They've allowed 4.2, a league high 4.2 red zone drives per game this season. Obviously, they give up a lot of yards on the ground. Derrick Henry should be the way that the Titans try to attack here, but if they get behind, and they are likely to get behind, especially if Mahomes is playing in this spot, that opens up, to me, A.J. Brown, because when they go play action, and when they set up Henry a lot this week and try to run the ball with him and establish the run and all those sorts of things, free plug, they're going to use play action. And Brown has been targeted on 37.5% of Ryan Tannehill's play action dropbacks this week.
Yeah, Corey Davis also with a little bit of a hip issue was spotted on the stationary bike during the game. And we'll see what happens there. I do think Derrick Henry is a nice tournament play. Obviously tricky to play Derrick Henry on DraftKings with the PPR setup, but you can get the over 100 yards and 2 touchdowns, which is clearly in his range of outcomes at home versus this Chiefs team that has struggled against the run. Did perform better last week, but I think Derrick Henry's a really good play. I love the A.J. Brown call. And yeah, I mean, with Mahomes coming back, I'll be curious to see his ownership. We haven't seen him recently, and I think people there's some shiny games this week. I think, Mahomes, Tyreek, Kelce stack running it back with A.J. Brown might be underowned. So I'm all over that. Watkins would be another guy that if you want to get really contrarian with the Chiefs guys. I mean, he's what, 5,100? We saw the ceiling game, obviously first week of the season. Maybe he's not an awful play either. Just Mahomes coming back, I think, is just probably undervalued overall by the market. So really nice game. It's a 48 total. Adam, any final thoughts before we kick it to Al for the ad read?
No, I'm quite excited for this ad read.
Well, Adam, talking about erectile dysfunction isn't easy. And usually we just brush it off or blame ourselves and say things like, I lost my mojo, or avoid it altogether with excuses like, I had a long day at work, or I'm sorry, baby, I'm just not feeling it.
It's all right, honey. Don't worry about it.
But with Roman, it is easy to talk about it. With a real doctor who can prescribe real medication, it's simple, safe, and totally discreet. With Roman, you can get a free online evaluation and ongoing care for ED, all from the comfort and the privacy of your home. The doctor will work with you to find the best treatment plan. If medication is appropriate, Roman will ship it to you with free 2-day shipping. The whole process is straightforward, simple, and discreet. Getting started is very simple. Just go to getroman.com/edge and complete an online visit. Erectile dysfunction used to be tough to tackle, but now there's Roman. Complete an online visit today to connect with a doctor and take care of it. Just go to getroman.com/edge to get a free visit online and free 2-day shipping. That's getroman.com/edge for a free visit to get started. getroman.com/edge.
Oh, that's your best work ever. Seriously.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
You've been in the content game for a long time. You just reached the pinnacle right there.
I found my niche.
How does it feel to be at top of Mount Everest?
I think I'm gonna try and I'm gonna put this on my reel, and I'm gonna apply to every podcast to just be the ad read guy.
I mean, dude, you are about to get.
I'm gonna get producer Luke
rich
to put together like music in the background that's appropriate for the ad read. We're gonna do it up right.
Roman just found their new face of the company.
That's what I was gonna say.
Maybe the voice, not the face.
I'm gonna be the voice.
Forget about the fantasy market. The dick pill market is massive.
I'm talking a real big industry here. And Al just cracked the code. Hey. Hashtag how rich. All right. After that, I know we can talk football, but good thing we got a couple good games here. Actually, probably the two best games on the slate are next. And we're going to start with Arizona at Tampa Bay. 52.5 total here, Adam. Tampa Bay favored by 4.5. And, man, the God himself. I mean, he is looking like a pretty good play there, Levitan.
Yeah, David Johnson's going to be back in this game. Chase Edmonds remains out. So, one of the questions is how will they use Kenyon Drake and David Johnson? Well, they say that David Johnson, they'll play it smart with him. We've heard speculation. And, I'm always wary of this speculation, but we've heard speculation that they'll use David Johnson in the slot and Kenyon Drake will play more of the running back, and that would be ideal. I'm just skeptical that they're actually going to do that, but we'll see, and maybe one thing they can do to get all their best players on the field would be move Christian Kirk outside some, play Larry Fitzgerald and David Johnson in the slot and in their double slot and their 4 wide. So that's one idea. We'll see if they follow through on it. OJ Howard sounds like he'll be back in this game. And obviously we need the flowchart master himself out to tell us whether we can play OJ Howard, because I think both OJ Howard and Cam Brate are going to be active for this game. So it's kind of a movable force, whatever that saying is, because OJ Howard is just complete dust, yet he's playing the Arizona Cardinals.
Yeah. What are the chances that a tight end scores a touchdown this week?
It's probably pretty good.
Probably pretty good. Okay. Now, here's the question, and this is an honest question, not a joke. Is Arizona playing 4 wide now, or are they going 3 wide with Kirk back? Because I think Kirk was outside last game.
Yeah, he was outside for most of the game. Yeah.
So like they've kind of scrapped the whole 4 wide all the time thing. They just don't have the personnel to be able to do it. So it's more 3 wide, and they're running a lot of tight end stuff too. So like
Max
in
Williams
there a lot.
Stuff. Yeah, I'd have to check, but I think that's right. Yeah.
Okay. So both teams just awful against tight ends. Both teams awful against everything. Both teams pace up, stack whatever you want here. Christian Kirk, I definitely believe, is in play. We also have a lot of value with Rojo now being named the starter. But like, we had this last year, right? When Barber was the starter and he was always really cheap, under 4,500, and we got 4,300 for Rojo this week. Are you excited to play Ronald Jones at 4,300, or is this just one of those where we're just kind of sighing when we click draft player to put Rojo into our lineups here at 4,300 because he's coming off of a 20-touch week and facing Arizona, even though they haven't given up tons of points to opposing running backs? Is it just a volume and a price play to get the high price guys that we want? He's just a low path to failure here, right? If he gets 2 or 3 catches, ran a career high in routes. I think he ran 17 routes last game. Only had 2 catches. If he adds 2 to 4 catches a week for him, that's going to be outstanding for his value. And he just hasn't been priced up enough, I think. I think he's a very, very good play here. But I think you're going to hear a lot this week of, I want to wait and see. You're not going to get a chance to wait and see. You're either going to play him this week, and if he has a good game, he's going to be 5,500 to 6,000 moving on. And a good game to me is like 15 points.
He's a great play.
Yeah.
I'm putting it out there. He's a great play, I think. This is just a dream spot. We'll note Arizona is not playing quite as fast as they were in September. I mean, Arizona was, living up to what we thought with Kingsbury coming into the season. But
did you say Queensberry?
What's up?
I thought you just said Queensberry.
No.
Okay.
Kingsbury? I might have said Kingsbury or something.
Okay.
I screwed it. I definitely screwed it up.
Okay.
I was thinking. I was looking at my stats here. Shout out to Establish the Run. They were running 69.7 plays per game to start the year, and that's gone down to 53.3 in their most recent 3 contests. So that's something to pay attention to. And I had noticed that as well. They're definitely slowing things down a little bit, really because they're not running as much no huddle. However, it's still a huge pace-up game. I think Arizona's going to be forced to throw. Tampa Bay, very good against the run. So because of that, you're looking at the Buccaneers. They're implied for a ton of points here, and there's just a ton of great options. I think Ronald Jones is a really, really strong play, but the premier plays are the passing game. Patrick Peterson got roasted by Emmanuel Sanders last week. He has not been the shutdown corner that we expected coming off of the suspension. I think Godwin, who I kicked it to Levitan, he didn't even acknowledge the God himself when I kicked it to him. Just went straight into the notes like a professional. So good for you, Adam. Talk about a great spot. I think he's one of the top plays in the overall slate. And then, I'm pot committed on OJ Howard. I need him so I don't have to move in with Smiz. I hope he scores a touchdown. Come on. Is he going to do it?
Mike Evans has 206 targets.
Here's an honest question.
Also.
Do you go for the leverage? I'm running a little bit hotter this week. Do I go for the leverage? Because I have so much invested in OJ Howard that if he scores, it's like one of those things, even with the DFS action, like it's still net good for me if he scores and I don't have him. Or do I go leverage and just say, you know what? I'm trying to get rich this week. OJ Howard in DFS, jam him in, lock button as well. What's the play?
Yeah, I'd be surprised if OJ Howard was used as any differently than he was used before the injury. That would surprise me. And
Cam Brady cost more than OJ Howard coming off of a full-on bagel.
No
0
joke.
yards, 0 targets, 0 catches, and he's cost more than OJ Howard against Arizona.
I have 6 figures of exposure in season long to OJ Howard. He's one of my highest known players on the board.
As bad as OJ Howard's been this year, in his last 4 games that he's been healthy, at least has 2 catches of 30+ yards. So maybe there's a chance that he could catch that long and pull like a Noah Fant and have like 20 DraftKings points on 4 targets.
Let's not forget OJ Howard's a really talented dude.
I didn't say anything to the contrary. He's just not being utilized, and we know very well that fantasy football is more about opportunity than talent.
Yeah. All right. On the Arizona side of the ball, we have to spend some time here. This is. We have 2 amazing games. I think this is the best game. Christian Kirk coming back, I think, is really impactful for this Arizona offense. I think Jameis will be really popular. Do we go to Kyler here? I think he's an awesome play as well.
Mm-hmm.
I think everyone in this game is great. This is probably my favorite play all the dude spot of the season. Talk me off that.
One thing about last week's Tampa game is that when you have Russell really only throwing to two guys, and yeah, Hollister got in there for a third, but with Tampa really only throwing to two guys, like it's so narrow. On Arizona, it starts to get a little bit wider, and then you add OJ Howard back in, it gets a little bit wider. You add Ronald Jones being a factor maybe, and it gets a little bit wider. So that's why I would say last week was kind of the premier game stack for Tampa and Seattle. But this is certainly an awesome one as well.
Okay, so the only question here for me is David Johnson, trust or bust?
Trust or bust. Wow. Is that a new slogan?
Just came up with that off the top of my head. Like, do you trust him or is he going to bust this weekend?
Oh God. I think Kenyon Drake's going to play a decent amount, man. He played well, and David Johnson is coming back off of injury, so I would love to see them line up David Johnson in the slot a lot. I can't project David Johnson right now for more than like 10 carries and 4 catches.
Okay. So bust.
So I don't know if that's trust or bust.
I think that's a bust.
I mean, he's only 5,700. He's only 5,700. He could easily go get 100 yards against Tampa and score a touchdown on that.
I mean, okay, considering that there's other players that are in that price range, right? Just a little bit cheaper that we project in better matchups for running backs that should get more touches, right? So paying up to get less touches for David Johnson seems like a fool's errand, at least in cash.
Yeah.
I mean, guys, let's stay on some good play. I mean, I think David Johnson's a good play. It's a good question, but Christian Kirk 5,200, and then here's the ultimate dart throw. If you want to get really contrarian, and I think this is really
say Larry Fitzgerald.
No.
Damn.
It's past September. You just look at the splits. Larry Fitzgerald plays well in September and then just completely dusts it off.
I just wanted you to tilt Adam.
Here's the thinnest play that I've mentioned all year, and that's saying something because I brought up some dusty donkeys on this podcast. Andy Isabella's 3,300, coming off a game where he had like an 88-yard touchdown, has not seen the field in general, has not played the amount of snaps, but there's some coach talk that he's going to see more opportunity. And the dude is legit fast. I mean, I don't understand why he's not playing because every time he does play, he seems to bust off these long touchdowns. So Adam, I mean, like this is a genuine question. Like it's very, very, I think it's chasing. There's a lot of things wrong with the play given how little volume he's gotten all year and how
3 catches total. They
haven't trusted him. But the dude is legit really, really talented. And I think Arizona's going to have to throw a ton.
Yeah. He ran 10 routes in that game where he had the 88-yard touchdown. The question is, has he earned more routes from his performance in that game? And did they go into the bye and self-scout and say, we can be a better team by playing Andy more? And so it would be...
There's no bye, by the way, for the Cardinals.
I'm sorry, a long week. It feels like a bye. Haven't played so long. A long week for the Cardinals and say, hey, we need to play Andy more.
Falcons at Saints, 2 teams coming off a bye. This historically has been just, an absolute dream spot. The difference here is this Saints defense is really, really, really good. Saints are favored by 12.5, only a 51 total. And when we've had these games in the past, I mean, these totals have been like 55, 56, 57, 58. Saints are favored by 12.5. And I think the biggest concern projecting a shootout here is the Saints defensive line has a huge edge versus Atlanta offensive line. So Adam, your news and notes, and then how you see this game playing out.
Yeah, I mean, to me, one of the biggest questions of the week is, has Latavius Murray earned more than what he was getting at the beginning of the year when Alvin Kamara was healthy? Because Alvin Kamara is going to be back for this game. I think his health is not a concern, but do they want to protect him some? I mean, he was averaging 19.8 touches. Latavius was averaging 6.8. I could see it getting closer to, and really they should have more running back touches in this game at home against Atlanta. But let's say that split continues where they only get, 26, 27 running back touches. I could see it being closer to, 16 to 12 or something like that in favor of Kamara. Now, can Kamara still pay it off at 8,200 given that on 16 or 17 touches? I think so. But yeah, it's just something to think about. Also expect Jared Cook back, expect Traquan Smith back. Matt Ryan is going to likely play through that high ankle sprain, which concerns me a little bit. And yeah, the reason that the total is lower is just because Atlanta's offense has just been so hit or miss. I mean, they really only scored in garbage time, and now, they have this really brutal matchup. So I know people are going to be excited about Julio and Ridley and Gage maybe, and Ryan. I'm concerned that Atlanta has direct paths to going down there and just laying a complete egg.
I mean, I'm never going to say that Pete's calls are bad, because Pete's won a ton of money and like he's usually right about the off the wall calls and everything. But if I'm going to play a dart throw wide receiver that requires a long touchdown to be viable, it's going to be Ted Ginn in this spot against Atlanta, right? He's only 3,700. Atlanta's given up tons of long touchdowns this year. They've been who we've been picking on, but like without skirting around it, the real play here is Michael Thomas. He's been a ridiculous play every single week. He's the guy that I said I'm kind of prioritizing over a second high dollar running back, because he's been producing like a running back, with DraftKings being full PPR and him getting essentially nine catches or a touchdown in basically every week this year, on pace to break Marvin Harrison's single season catch record. He's been an absolute moneymaker every single week in daily fantasy, and now he's just like 8,300 on a week where Christian McCaffrey's 10-5. But I'll tell you what, you can get a lineup where you play Lamar Jackson and Christian McCaffrey and Michael Thomas in there, as long as you play and you know, all you have to do is just play all those guys and you can get to all the high dollar dudes. So like, avoiding Michael Thomas is not really on the list of things that I want to do this week, and I'm sure as hell not going to be avoiding him.
He's a great play. What about Drew Brees, who I think is also a really strong play?
Good. Very good at football.
The downside with Drew Brees here is there's a lot of pass to failure. You know, Latavius and Kamara scoring rushing touchdowns, in Atlanta not being able to keep this game close, which that's in the line. But I do think there's some really good pass, and I think this is another game that you can obviously stack up, and something Adam talked about in the solo pod. You know, there's a lot of game theory out there last week, and people just outsmarted themselves, including myself, not having enough exposure to the Seattle game because we thought it was such chalk. So to me, I love Drew Brees, love Michael Thomas, I love Kamara. On the Atlanta side, I mean, it's tough to get excited about too many of these plays because the Saints defense has just been awesome. But Calvin Ridley, I think, is a really strong play. Obviously, Sanu's gone now, and I think he's going to see an increase in target share. Austin Hooper's still nice, and Julio's a great play, but you know, he's going to see Lattimore. So what are your guys' thoughts on the Atlanta side of the ball?
Matt Ryan at 6,100.
Probably going to get 300 yards.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not saying he's going to do it every week, but like every week he's been healthy, he has. And the one week he wasn't healthy, Matt Schaub threw for 460. I know the offensive line is bad, and if they can put as much pressure on him in the backfield, then yes, it's going to be an issue like it was against the Rams. But the only path to success that the Falcons have is to throw the hell out of the ball, and he's got the tools with which to do it, with Hooper and Julio and Ridley and everybody else.
Yeah, we saw Russell Gage take over the Mohamed Sanu role, so you know, I was more excited for Calvin Ridley when I thought that they'd move him into the slot, and that's really where the New Orleans defense is most susceptible, is through the slot. But they just, you know, kind of threw Russell Gage into that role. So you know, I last year we saw them like bracket Julio, and it didn't really matter. Julio still had big games, and then we saw Marshawn Lattimore on Calvin Ridley, and you know, New Orleans definitely has some tricks up their sleeve to try to slow down this offense. So we'll see.
Yeah. Okay. And I think the Saints defense with Kamara, Latavius, probably Kamara, because we just got, actually, as we're recording this, Kamara should be totally good to go. We expected that. But Kamara and or Ridley with the Saints defense is another stack that you can take advantage of this week. Saints have the highest implied team total on the slate. All right, moving to the afternoon games, we have the Dolphins at the Colts. Not as excited about the Dolphins. Really bummed about Preston Williams tearing his ACL. Shout out to CSU. He's having an awesome game. I did play Preston in my cash game team instead of Dusty Danny Amendola, but he's done now. This is a tough spot to find fantasy goodness outside of Marlon Mack and this Colts defense. What are the news and notes specifically on Jacoby Brissett, Adam?
Yeah, Jacoby Brissett sounds like he has an MCL sprain and he's going to be questionable, so we'll see on that. But still no T.Y. Hilton. Paris Campbell is out now, so Zach Pascal, Chester Rogers, Deion Kane, Jack Doyle, Eric Ebron are going to be the pass game weapons for Brissett, or maybe Brian Hoyer. Preston Williams is down, as you said. Hate to see it, man, but he'll be replaced by Allen Hurns, and then also Albert Wilson, and also Mark Walton's been suspended. We know Kenyon Drake's gone. They're going to go with, Balaj and Myles Gaskin and Patrick Laird or something like that. And yeah, I'd be remiss if I didn't mention my boy from Penn State, Mike Gesicki, one of the best athletes to ever play the tight. I didn't say one of the best football players. I said one of the best athletes to ever play.
You're not
the
wrong.
Tight end position is Mike Gesicki. He's struggled with physicality at the NFL level. He's struggled with, route running and getting open, and it hasn't been pretty for Mike Gesicki at the NFL level. But this should be a really good opportunity for him against an Indy defense, which has struggled and kind of purposely gives the middle of the field, leaves it open in kind of the cover two that they play. So, if you want to bet on athletes, it would be Gesicki over Ellison. You could probably make a pretty good case that Ellison's just a better football player than Gesicki. And that's not saying much. Like Gesicki, he's not a very good football player right now. So yeah.
We already said it. Opportunity beats talent any day of the week. But when opportunity meets athleticism, we have some paths to success. And 20 targets over the last 4 weeks for Gesicki, tied for 6th among tight ends over that stretch. And as Adam just alluded to, Indy has given up 6 different tight ends have scored 10 plus points on DraftKings. He's only 3,100. A lot of paths to success. And just like Fant last week, where he's the type of athlete, if he gets the ball in space, he's not going to get caught from behind. So you definitely have the chance for a long touchdown with him, unlike some other less athletic guys at the position who are still way more athletic than Adam or myself. So not more athletic than Pete. Pete is a physical specimen.
No, trust me, I'm Dustin. I got old fast, real bad.
So, I think that there's plays here. The question with Gesicki is, does he pick up any more usage with Preston Williams out? He's lined up at wide receiver a bunch, not really being used as an inline tight end. So you can still play him at tight end, but he's being utilized more as a pass-catching wide receiver, as I said. Those 20 targets over the past 4 weeks. Very viable if you don't want to pay up for one of the 5K plus guys to be able to afford those more expensive players at other positions that have paths to 30 plus, 35 plus fantasy points.
Yeah, he's a great play. Forgot to mention the line, 44 total. Colts are favored by 10. So a really healthy team total for this Colts team, even with the uncertainty at quarterback. And I think that's the defense and just going up against this Dolphins team. Gesicki, I think Parker's a decent play. Albert Wilson, we've seen some big games from him in the past. He struggled to stay healthy as well. Those are the Dolphins plays. Before looking at pricing, I was so excited. I was thinking, oh, this is perfect. Marlon Mack, Colts defense is going to be under-owned and a really high equity play. But, of course, DraftKings prices up all these guys versus the Dolphins. Marlon Mack at $7K. Maybe that makes him an even better tournament play just because he's so expensive. What are your guys' thoughts on Mack and the Colts defense? Because historically, when the Colts are big favorites, that's been when Mack's had these just monster games.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It makes sense. I'm hard-pressed to ever pay $7K for Marlon Mack, but yeah, this would be the spot of all spots for Marlon Mack.
He needs 100 yards and 2 touchdowns to be a viable tournament play. If he's going to get that, it's going to be in a week like this against Miami.
Right. Yeah, his lack of involvement in the passing game and the price tag at $7K is just so aggressive. But, man, Colts are implied for a lot. And I do think the Colts defense is one of the premier plays on the slate. Let's move to the Rams at Steelers, which looks like a pretty solid game here. There are some news and notes. 44 total. Rams are favored by 3.5. One of the sneakier games, and you do have the leverage of being in the afternoon, so you keep optionality with swapping. What are the news and notes here, Adam?
Yeah, Brandon Cooks is going to miss this game. Shout out to him. Hope he's all right with his concussions. They'll go ahead and start Josh Reynolds in their 3 wide receiver sets. We have a pretty big sample of Josh Reynolds starting, but most of it is with Cooper Kupp out, not Brandon Cooks out. So instead of kind of that inside role being open, which went to Robert Woods a lot last year, now it's kind of just, we can replace Brandon Cooks on the outside with Josh Reynolds, and they can kind of do similar things. Obviously, Brandon Cooks much faster, much better player. So I don't think it affects the offense as a whole that much. Like, I've seen people say that, oh, this is huge for Gerald Everett, but I don't see it that way. I kind of think that it's just status quo for the Rams. Also, big injury is James Conner to watch, and he's practicing on a limited basis, but he has this shoulder AC sprain, and if he can't go, it'll again be Jalen Samuels with Trey Edmonds. They raised Jalen Samuels' price to $6,300. Obviously, for a guy getting 8 carries, that's a lot. But, this dude, he's averaging a catch on 14% of his snaps in his NFL career, which is just an outrageously high number. And I don't think it's a fluke. I think he's had 4 games with 7 or more catches in his career. He's just really likely to catch 4 to 7 passes. So I still think, despite the price range, Rays, he would be in play if Connor sits. And then Malcolm Brown, kind of expect back in this game too to spell Gurley and kind of take away from Darrell Henderson as well.
Thoughts on Reynolds or no? Too thin? 3,800, 8 targets
trust or
last
bust,
week
Adam.
against,
Trust or bust.
Yeah,
Trust or bust. This is like some ESPN segment. Trust or bust.
It's an overset Twitter video with this news guy with the hair. Trust or bust.
I love it.
God, I'm gonna say bust on Josh Reynolds. You know, Brandon Cooks wasn't exactly being explosive or productive in that role, and Josh Reynolds is not going to take the top off of a defense. So could be wrong. I mean, he's super cheap. I don't really make a habit of like saying bad things about super cheap guys in good offenses, but I would say that one place Jared Goff struggles is under pressure really badly, and Pittsburgh is just, I mean, getting a ton of pressure on the quarterback, and they're playing at home here, so that would scare me as well.
Yeah, road golf hasn't been a great thing the last couple of years. I don't know what to do with this game. It's just that the players are so priced up. Like Gurley is like, what do we do with him? He's 6,100. He's just not the same. Like, what? Okay, here's the question: what price would Todd Gurley have to be an intriguing play for you? Because 6,100 ain't it, Chief?
Yeah,
Chief. That's what my wife calls me. There's a long backstory there, but yeah.
Like, I have no interest. Like, Todd Gurley, 6,100, pass. Like, I don't want any of it.
Yeah, me neither.
Which means he's going to score 3 touchdowns this week, and everybody's going to jump into my mentions. But like, you know, like, realistically speaking, are you excited to play Todd Gurley at 6,100? At what point would you be like, hey, Todd Gurley's pretty good value this week? Like 53,
45,
48,
4,500.
God.
Todd Gurley is just bad.
Like, we're jumping all over David Montgomery at 5,300. You wouldn't be on Todd Gurley at 5,300?
I just don't trust him. I mean, his carries.
You trust Montgomery, though. Like, think about Montgomery's been so spotty this year.
Montgomery's young and athletic. Gurley is, I mean, Gurley was one of my favorite running backs. Not generational talent, but a very high-end talent. High-end talent has done extremely well, but man, the running back position, it just comes at you fast, and he's dealt with a lot of injuries, and shout out to him for getting paid. Good work there, and happy that it happened because he's a great player. But he's just fallen off, and I mean, he's getting just far less opportunities, averaging around like 14 touches a game. So it's hard for me to get excited about a guy that I just don't see a lot of volume. And the Steelers defense has really come around. So that's a concern. There's one play that stands out to me, but there are easy ways to poke holes. I think Cooper Kupp is going to be very low owned. We've seen him have a ton of monster games, and you know, with the Steelers getting pressure, you would expect Goff to throw to him a bunch. But the downside here is Goff has been so pathetic on the road, and those splits have carried over, obviously, to Cooper Kupp. So that's the concern. I think Samuels is the best play if Connor's out, and then you're still going to be able to get leverage with Juju, who's only 5,800. They start giving him more opportunity. I mean, he's been productive even with far less targets than we saw last year. So those are the plays I'm looking at. Al, it sounds like you have some final thoughts.
Yeah, I gotta defend my son Cooper Kupp here. I mean, in home games, 23.6 DraftKings points per game. In road games, he has fallen way off to 22.1 DraftKings points per game. Is that
just this year? That's
yes.
This year? Yeah, this year he's been better, but
okay.
Go back.
I have to defend my son. I'm not leaving my kids out in the street, Pete.
Did you count the London game as a road game?
I don't even know.
He had like 40 points in London. Yeah, no, Cooper Kupp's an awesome play.
Pies, apparently.
Cooper Kupp's for sure an awesome play. Steelers have like done that thing where they try to cover slot receivers with linebackers before, and I don't. They're like, they have to be so embarrassed about that. I don't think they're going to do it anymore. But it's at least worth noting that they've struggled there, and so yeah, I thought Cooper Kupp stood out too.
I don't want to move on from the last game. I'm pulling up Cooper Kupp here. Let's see. Here we go. Cooper Kupp, what a stud. I mean, just in general. Oh, they don't give you the career splits on this freaking site anymore. Come on. Come on, Cooper
Pete
Kupp.
Is tilting.
I am tilting. The website's
every
loading.
Sunday. I've got like that little button that you get on photo day, like with Cooper Kupp on my sweatshirt. Like every Sunday. Like, the dude's my son. Love that kid.
Yeah, he's great. 335 yards receiving at home last year, 231 on the road. 2017, he had 485 yards receiving, 33 catches at home, 384 on the road. So there's some splits there. It's more Goff is just pedestrian on the road. We can agree there, right?
Yes. Yeah. Road golf is not really a thing I want to buy into.
Yeah. All right. Let's keep it moving. Last game on the slate here. We have the Panthers at Packers. What an egg. The Packers throughout their last week. Just pitiful performance. Really weird splits, Adam. I know you've talked a little bit about this, but Aaron Rodgers just has not been the same with Devontae Adams out there. The market is expecting Green Bay to bounce back in a big way here. Packers are favored by 5 points and a 46.5 total. What are the news and notes?
Yeah, I thought Devontae Adams looked fine. He played his normal role. He saw 10 or 11 targets, which I can project him again for 10 or 11 targets in this game, and he's only, 6,900? So I think that Devontae Adams is definitely in play. It's not the best matchup, but that's never stopped Devontae Adams before. And I can't find any good reason for Aaron Rodgers to struggle with Devontae Adams back. It doesn't really make any sense. I think their run game was ineffective. Just their whole team was ineffective down there. Aaron Rodgers was quoted this week saying, hey, listen, we need to get Aaron Jones 15 to 20 touches, and we need to get Jamal Williams 10 to 15 touches in this game. So I think, they know that that's where their team gets going. Behind Devontae Adams, it's all a rotation. And then, on the other side, DJ Moore and Curtis Samuel were for sure two cash plays last week. And, their prices have not gone up that much at all. And Green Bay is 24th in yards per play on the season. And they've been getting absolutely crammed by opposing run games also. So DraftKings made the move to make Christian McCaffrey 10,500. I don't think that's going to be enough to stop him from being 35% owned this week, especially when there's no Dalvin Cook Dalvin Cook was more owned than Christian McCaffrey last week, which was, wild. I talked about that on the solo pod too, yeah. There's no one this week that's going to say, well, I'll play X over Christian McCaffrey. I think Christian McCaffrey's ownership is going to be way higher this week, probably closer to 40 in the Millie Maker.
I bet you if Christian McCaffrey was 9,900 last week instead of 10,000, he would have been more owned than Dalvin Cook.
Yeah.
People saw that fifth figure and they panicked. No, I can't pay 10,000. I'm going to pay 9,500. It was 9,900. Oh, what? It's only 400 more. And they would have played Christian McCaffrey.
Yeah.
I think you can still play Christian McCaffrey this week, but shout out to DraftKings. I think that they did a great job of pricing this week because now it's actually a decision if you want to play Christian McCaffrey or not, because last week they tuned everybody up, right? They tried to make everybody super tight at every single position. All the receivers got tuned up. All the running backs got tuned up. And then a massive value opened up with Jalen Samuels, which just allowed everybody to easily plug in Christian McCaffrey into lineups. This week, unless that massive 20-touch value opens up on the slate that's just a free square, it is tougher to warrant paying up for Christian McCaffrey when guys like Barkley and Kamara are 2,000 less, and Mike Thomas is 2,000 less. So I think that less people are going to be on McCaffrey this week at 10.5 than were there on 10,000 last week, because there is no Samuels out there. Ronald Jones is not Jalen Samuels. It's not the same play, right? Jones is a good value. Samuels was a plug and play, absolute smash, no question about it. I still think McCaffrey is in play. I think that 25 points, 22 points as a realistic floor against Green Bay, who's given up well over 100 yards rushing per game to opposing running backs. And what is the exact number? Because I don't want to get it wrong. Almost 6 catches, 5.89 catches per game to the position, knowing that he gets 99.9% of the running back touches on this team and over 38% of the team's scrimmage yards. He's got a ridiculous floor. Adam, is this another week where you could play 3 of these guys without their quarterback in your cash game lineup? Not your cash game lineup, but the Royal U.
No, I know. Yeah, I haven't thought too much about Curtis Samuel and DJ Moore yet, but yeah, I don't know. Them going on the road with Kyle Allen to Lambeau would scare me more than a home game against the Titans, where the offense could just crater out. Did you say you thought Christian McCaffrey will be less owned this week than last week?
No. Okay, I think he's going to, in cash games, yes.
He was only 50% in cash last week.
What?
Yeah.
Okay, I thought he was higher than that. Honestly, yeah. Am I misremembering this? Because Jalen Samuels was 90%, and he was I thought 65.
In the 25 single entry, he was 50, and in the $100 single entry, He was like 55.
Okay, so I'm thinking of the smaller field ones, like the 50 and 100 ones and whatever. Like he was like in the King of the Gridiron, he was like 70% out, 65, 70% out, which is not a cash game, obviously, but still.
We're battling in that, Al, for the min cash, you and I.
Yeah, I was going to say we're battling to just make it into the money.
We're both right now.
You're
both
doing very well. You're doing very well in that, by the way. I'm just meandering in like the 20s.
Oh, I'm doing very well in 16th place out of 100.
Okay, I'm in like 23rd out of 100.
My standards have gone way down. It used to be a printing press. Now I'm just lighting it on fire.
Yeah.
Tell you what,
I need to have a big week. We can't all be Mackie Supa and just, plow in the Miami stack last week and just print.
He did it with Russ. Shout out to Mackie Supa, Wiggins.
Not in that one.
Oh, what did he plow in?
He had the Fitzgerald stack or Fitzmagic stack in that one. He had Preston and Fitzmagic.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I ran a little bit more of a tournament lineup in that one.
I like that. Shout out to Wiggins. He can thank me later. Anyways, let's keep it moving on this game. I think McCaffrey's obviously the stone chalk that you'll have to make a decision on in tournaments. Or we're not nervous about his knee at all, right? I mean,
no,
Wednesday,
he did the same thing last week, and then he went off for 40.
No, they said he's going to sit out every Wednesday for the rest of the season.
Right.
Yeah.
On the
sat
Green
out
Bay
last
side,
Wednesday with the same injury.
On the Green Bay side, are we going to go to Devontae Adams? Because like you said, Adam, 6,900. I mean, that's a great tag. I think you want to run though against the Panthers. That's been the recent trend is that you can run better against the Panthers. So is it a Devontae Adams type week if you're targeting Green Bay guys, or is it an Aaron Jones?
Or is it a Jamal Williams week?
Or Jamal Williams?
Yeah, it's just hard for me to pay up for Aaron Jones when I know that Jamal Williams is going to be heavily involved in the red zone in the pass game. It's just, Aaron Jones is going to burn me. He's an awesome player, so he's going to burn me on some weeks. But I'd just rather be low.
Jamal Williams was such a great best ball play this year with as low as he was being picked and as much as he's vulturing, it's just crushing Aaron Jones. Right? It's like the weeks that he was out, Aaron Jones was an absolute plug and play. Now Aaron Jones' price hasn't come down from those weeks, but his volume is halved. Right? Instead of getting 20 to 25 touches, he's getting like 12 to 15. It's how can I pay 7,400 on this slate for a guy who last week got 9 touches and the week before obviously had 21, the week before that 16, the week before that 15. He's a mid-teens touch guy without the talent of an Alvin Kamara who with 17 or 18 touches could put up 35 fantasy points. Jones needs 20 plus. And when he's gotten 20 plus, he's been fantastic, but I don't see many paths to 20 plus touches this week.
Yeah. I I don't know. This game is really confusing me because the Packers have a really high implied total. They're coming off a bust week, but they're on the road. Aaron Rodgers, another guy, obviously has been just fantastic in Green Bay. So I want pieces. I'm just trying to figure out where to go. MVS would be a really thin but contrarian type play. I guess, Adam, how owned do you expect Devontae Adams to be at 6,900?
Yeah, we'll see if people are talking about him. I think he'll end up, somewhere between 10 and I would say, 8 to 12.
He's got no touchdowns on the year. That's going to change. Not necessarily this week, but there's no way he ends the year with 2 touchdowns, is there?
That'd be shocking.
This could be the start of a streak where he has we look back in week 16 and I could see our podcast from the future. Devontae Adams with 6 touchdowns in the last 4 games, right? That's a thing that could happen.
Totally. Yeah, I think he's a strong play. And we'll just see where his ownership shakes out because I do think Aaron Rodgers is probably the best bet in this game for tournaments, and it's easy to run it back because you know where you're going to go with Carolina. You're going to go with the receivers. You're going to go with Christian McCaffrey. So, Good late hammer. I think it's definitely better than the Pittsburgh game. Any final thoughts, boys, before we get out of here?
Nope.
My pants are dry.
Nice.
Maybe nice. Al, get us out of here. And if you do it half as well as that ad read, we're killing it.
Guys, this has been a very eventful podcast. A whole lot of things happened. We had Jerry's bark. Adam spilled water on his pants. We had a ridiculous ad read. Hope that you guys enjoyed it. I know that I did. So for Pete and for Adam and for producer Luke and for Jerry, who finally got off of her ass and gave us a pick this year, appreciate you, Jerry. Until next time, I'm Al. If we don't win a GPP, we hope that one of you guys do. Bye.
We are promoters at DraftKings and also avid fans. Our usernames are Adam Levitan, Al Smizzle, and CSU Ram 88. We may sometimes play on our personal accounts in the games that we offer advice on. Although we have expressed our personal view on the games and strategies in this podcast, they do not necessarily reflect the views of DraftKings, and we also may deploy different players and strategies than what we recommended in this podcast.